Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else watching. My name's Erik, and welcome back to a brand new interview. Today, we have a very special guest, that being the voice actor for Peach Wilkins, Mr. Mike Villani. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, Eric, and I'm very, very happy to be here. As we were just talking, I'm glad you called since Peach was only in the first franchise and and died at the third level there. So, but it was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
And I know, obviously, the character has a lot of fans behind it, too, so I think this is going to be a special treat for a lot of people out there. So, thank you for, coming aboard and agreeing to the interview. I appreciate it, and the fans appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. And also, special shout out, if you wouldn't mind doing so, for Alex.
Oh yeah, you know something? I got to you. Yes, absolutely. I was going to do that. Alex Lemus, who's a friend of mine, he's an actor and a voiceover artist, and he actually got a hold of me about 6 months ago and asked if I would come up and sign some memorabilia for him. He's a collector and a huge Bioshock devotee, and I said sure, and we hit it off, and he gave me a call and he said I want to introduce you to somebody, and I had not seen your blogs or your interviews up until that time, and I'm very happy you did. So thank you, Alex. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my friend, and I appreciate you being here with us. So, anyways, let's hop into the questions because a lot of people, I'm sure, are dying to know, and I'm just ready to pick the brain of another voice actor because it's so much fun for me to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so when considering a role, and in this instance, obviously, we'll be talking about Peach Wilkins, what are some of the factors and characteristics that kind of convince you to take that role or to commit to like a certain character in particular?
It all starts with obviously your agent sending you a script, and along with a script, they also will send a description of the character, of course, and they'll send a sketch of the character. And what you have to do is you have to read, obviously, the lines before. And when you hear how the lines are written for this character and you see this character, you naturally kind of evolve into the character. And that happened with me and Peach. I saw the character, and he was just a little off, just a little off. And I on the audition, I just kind of did. Mr. Fontaine wants to talk to you because he is not happy with you. My name is Peach Wilkins, and you do that, and you hope that it is the right voice that they're looking for. Well, apparently it was, because Ken Levine called my agent and said, we'd like to have Mike Villani come do Peach Wilkins. And, for me, I heard that one of your interviews with Robert Ludus, and he played Oliver Vaquar in, I believe, Infinity. And he was a big fan of Bioshock, from what I saw in the interview. And he he when he went interviewed for auditioned for Infinity, he didn't know what he was auditioning for, and so he was already a big fan. I get the copy. It was 7 years ago in 2007, and it was one of Irrational first foray, not really, but into this kind of genre. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a real gamer, but uh, um, so I didn't know what it was. It was titled with a number and a letter, which was a code because they didn't want to give away anything. We had to, of course, sign and do not disclose
Mm-hmm.
an NDA, and and then you go in and you do your audition. We had to sign the NDA before even the audition, so it was all said and done. And when I got the call, I went in not knowing anything about the game, not knowing anything about Peach or where he was positioned in the levels of the game. So I was there. Ken Levine was directing, and he just had lines. He had lines that were not necessarily a flow of the script, but they were all independent lines, and we did them. I mean, so especially when you see a line, and I'm reading here because let's see. when he comes, and he says, if I smell a fontaine on you, I'm going to put you in a box. And so Ken would say, well, that's good, but what have you got? How far can you go? And I said, how far do you want? And this happened on almost every line. And so he was really pulling things out. So then you go, you go all out, and it's easier to pull somebody back than it is to get them up and running in full speed. So, then you just kind of really go out, if I smell a fontaine on you, I'm going to put you in a box. And I don't think that was the exact line, but it was something like that. So it was really a lot of fun. It was very grueling. I worked a week on the lines because the character was, minimal, as I say in the first Bioshock. But after that week, I was drained all day, and then we had to do all of the death sounds and all of the dying sounds, It became very, very strenuous, but I'm so glad I did it.
It definitely seems like from the other actors that I've talked to, and even Ken himself, it seems like for each game that he works on, he likes to really try to like push and push and push and try to get the best performance out of his like actors and actresses. Like when I was talking to Oliver Vaquer, like beforehand, like we were doing before we started recording, him and Jennifer Hale, they were both together and they would like bounce stuff off of each other, and then they just kept like ramping up the performance even more and ramping it up until the point where you finally see the finished like characters in game, and that was like the pinnacle of what Ken wanted. And he did the same thing with like Troy Baker and Courtney Draper, who played Booker and Elizabeth, the main two characters. There was a point I think where they actually made Courtney Draper like bawl her eyes out when doing a scene to try to get that much emotion out of her. So I can only imagine like how draining of a process everybody goes through when recording for these games. So thank you for that insight, by the way.
Yeah, he actually had a number of breaks kind of built in. He'd say, "How's your voice? Are you okay?" And gave us a time, to relax a little bit in between times, so we weren't just so burnt out and throwing the lines out. I mean, he's a very meticulous director, and it really worked, and it helped quite a bit for us to take our time and get the inside of what he really wanted and have him pull it out, because he's got takes before the real big ones, so he could have used any one of them, and it was a method that worked, and I'm sure all the rest of the actors that worked under him would say the same thing.
It definitely seems like it works. It seems like he's got almost like a secret formula in order to bring out that like energy and his actors and actresses. So it's always nice to just hear the performances as well. Okay, so when coming up with like a personification of a character, like you were talking about, like how you kind of slowly devolve into the character, whether it's like Peach Wilkins, or I'll use another instance for you, for example, as a newscaster in Bruce Almighty. How do you personally like come up with things such as the speech patterns, cadences, personalities? Just basically, how do you become the character without like help? If that makes sense.
Right, it does. And once again, the character is you, because no one else has played this character before. So there's nobody to book it off of. And if you own that character, if you go in with the thought that you're going to make this Peach Wilkins this guy, then you have to continue making Peach Wilkins this guy. I worked with Jim Carrey, not only on Bruce Almighty, but Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman story. I played Merv Griffin. He really wanted to play Andy Kaufman. He thought he was the reincarnate of Andy Kaufman. He went to Milos Forman and Danny DeVito and actually auditioned for the part. They were thinking other people would have played it maybe better, but he got it, and he was it. And now that's a character that is a known character, but he nailed it. And I worked with him for 2 days on the set of the Merv Griffin show when Andy appeared on the Merv Griffin show, and wanted to wrestle women. He was a spoof. He's a screwball. He he irritated a lot of people in Hollywood because he was always joking. He was a jokester, and he had a number of characters that his own characters that played along with it. But when Jim got into character, I didn't even. I called him Andy, and he playing to. We had 300 extras in the audience, and he played Andy. He was Andy. So when you do a voice or an on camera, you have to own it. Just own it and keep going with it. And once again, with a good director, pulling things out of you, you can become all kinds of characters with that one character. Especially when he goes down into Rapture and becomes mutated a little bit. And then you gotta really blink your eyes more, and you gotta, I mean, if you ever saw the actual physicality of voice actors, which you have in a number of documentaries that they've done, they're all over the place.
Yeah, it's like
So
they're putting like their all into it, which is
they're
awesome.
all into it because you have to be that character. You're not Mike Villani playing Peach Wilkins. You're Peach Wilkins.
I'm always fascinated just hearing like stories. Like I
Yeah.
can literally just sit here and let a guest speak and just listen and absorb all the information. It's just
Uh,
it's a lot of fun getting that insight, getting just more knowledge and stuff like that on the topics that like genuinely interest me. So
mhm.
thank you
Well,
for that
I've
as well.
I've been in Hollywood 52 years, so I've got a number of stories. So we could go on and on. So you stop me when you need to jump in.
And we will get to that, I promise.
Okay.
All right. So during the development and the production of Bioshock One, what was your overall experience like with like the cast, the directors, the crew? Just what was your overall experience during that whole ordeal?
Well, I tell you, for me it was very nice. I only worked a week on the voices, and since everybody didn't know a lot about Bioshock, I mean, it was the initial franchise piece. Everybody was kind of, wow, this is going to be interesting. What's going on? But everybody was very, very nice. Ken was a wonderful guy, as I remember. This was 2007, so a number of years ago, 15, and so. But the experience to me was great. And I driving home. I live 50 miles away from Hollywood, so I make the drive. And driving home after every session, I can remember being really spent, vocally and just emotionally and everything. And but man, it was a rush. I had a big smile on my face, going, "This is good work." And for an actor, you want to be able to step back and say that was great. That session was great. There's a casting house in Los Angeles called the Voice Caster. It used to be owned by Bob Lloyd, and it's a casting house where they take a number of different auditions and put them in one pod. So someone will call for an audition, and instead of calling each agency, the advertising agency calling each talent agency, they will call the voice caster, and they will take 5 people from 10 agencies. So there's only 50 people. Bob Lloyd had a big sign on his door as you walked out over the door that said, "Please leave your best performance here, not on the bus on the way home."
I mean,
And
that's
that's the
definitely
thing.
good advice.
You got to get up, step up, hit your mark, and walk away going, "I nailed it." I mean, there's been times when I've done things and I went, "Gosh, my voice just wasn't, as good today," or something. But you can't really second guess it. You got to forget about it and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those, just let it happen. Whatever
Let
happens,
it happen.
happens. You
Yeah,
can't really
yeah,
control it, so might as well give it
absolutely.
your all and then just see where it takes you.
See where it takes you.
Was the process fun? At least, like I know you said it was grueling, but was like the recording and all of that, was that fun? Or does it get kind of strenuous after a little while?
It gets strenuous, but once again, it was fun, and Ken made it that way. Had a good recordist, engineer. I don't remember what his name was, but we were at a big recording house in L.A., and everybody just made it easy. There was no prima donnas, and so once again, it was fun, and it was even funner. Basically, driving home, going, "Man, I nailed that. I really did a good job there." And then I actually heard the voice. I didn't play the game, but I had nephews and nieces that played the game, and they would show me, and I would go, man, that works. I didn't know how this was going to work there, but it worked.
And that'll actually tie into a later question here. So I'm glad
Okay.
you brought that up. Um, so obviously you've played multiple parts, multiple characters, especially I believe you said 52 years as an actor, right? Correct?
I have, and I'll tell you before you even go on. Um, there's a whole group, and it's a niche. They used to call it niche, but now it's niche of actors that Bill Farmer, Scott Paulson, not Scott Paulson, Robbie Paulson, and a bunch of them that do characters, and they do multiple characters. So every once in a while, as an actor and a voiceover artist, I'm an MC, I'm a venue announcer at the Olympics. I will get from my agents games that have characters, and I love auditioning. I've auditioned for a number of them, and I've gotten a few. I played Lord Ignatius, the God of Fire, in a game called World of Warcraft. You've got to get past me to go to the next level. Burn in hell. And that was another great part. Um, but I don't think I'm credited for that actually on IMDb. So if anybody wants to get on and but
You
I
heard him.
enjoy doing.
Do it. Do
There
it.
we go. I'll do it. Yeah, do it. Somebody do that, Lord Ignatius. But all the auditions that I've done, I've really enjoyed. And you throw it out there. 20 years ago, the business was so different because there were a handful of guys like these cartoon character guys that did majority of the work, and guys like Ernie Anderson who did The Love Boat, and big voices like that, and Danny Dark. But now it is so, I don't want to say diluted, but it is so inundated with actors and voice actors that it limits the roles that you're going to get actually.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually, especially with like the amount of actors and actresses there are. It just seems like it kind of like dwindles down the pool, so to speak, if that
The
makes
pool, it
yeah.
does, yeah.
So going on with that question, obviously, like I said, you've played multiple characters, whether it's digital like game, TV series, on film, or on camera. Overall, which one do you prefer to do? Like, what are you most comfortable doing?
Well, I'll tell you, and you brought it up in our pre-chat. I have a journalism degree from the University of Missouri, which is reputed to be one of the best journalism schools in the country, and it is MIZ for all of you ZOUers out there. And so I was a newscaster early on in my career in college, and for the NBC station in mid Missouri, KOMU TV. I was a newscaster, and you know, it got to be a part where of me where I found it very depressing, and um, it was difficult because the old adage is if it bleeds, it leads. So you had to zoom in on the car wreck, and if there was a foot hanging out, they wanted you to get that foot, and maybe it was terrible. So I got out of that. However, the number of movies that I've been in, I played newscasters, and I hearken back to my days at the University of Missouri in my newscasting days, um, and become that person, the man on the not man on the moon, but Bruce Almighty. I was the senior news anchor. I'm not sure if that's what it said on the script, but I made myself that for a couple of scenes when Jim is pulling the moon in with for Jennifer Aniston. They cut to me a little while later, and I come on and I go, a large tidal wave has just hit Kitamoto City. Lunar activity is responsible. And so, if you have that persona of a newsman, they're going to think, yeah, guy's a newsman. I was in a movie called Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones.
Classic.
Uh, Anne Heche and a number of people. But there was an earthquake under the city, under the La Brea tar pits, and it was going to devastate Hollywood, or at least that part of Hollywood, the Miracle Mile. And as a matter of fact, they actually built a set of the Miracle Mile, of that portion of Hollywood by the La Brea tar pits and on down, on a shooting lot over by the airport. And they built it, and they burned it down and exploded it every night. Then they worked all night and rebuilt it. They did that for 3 nights to actuate the volcano that came out of the earthquake in the La Brea tar pits. As a matter of fact, so the FAA sent notes to every airline, sent a bulletin to every airline. There's going to be a conflagration right next to the airport. It's not going to interfere with you or anything, but please be aware that there's going to be explosions for the next 3 nights. Well, a Southwest, oh, no, it was an Air California, I believe, plane. The people went crazy because they saw all these explosions. Nobody told the captain. The captain didn't say anything. And so people were going nuts, and it was on the news the next day. But where I'm going with this story is there were a number of newscasters from Los Angeles that played various roles in this film. And we were all lumped together as newscasters as themselves. And my name was at the top. I was, Mike Villani. Well, I wasn't a newscaster. I was an actor. So, but that's a role I'm most comfortable with. I'm also very comfortable emceeing, master of ceremonies. I MC a number of large corporate events, and I MC a lot of golf tournaments. I'm a golfer and MC a lot of golf tournaments, and I enjoy doing that. I find it easy. And somebody said, "You get nervous?" And I said, "Only if I'm not prepared. Have a beginning, have a middle, and have an ending." Thank you.
So, as a character overall, or just with you playing Peach Wilkins, like, how did you really enjoy playing him? And adding a little bit on top of that, if you could have incorporated him more into the game and given him like a bigger part, what would you have liked to have seen him accomplish within the game? If you remember like anything about what happens after.
I do a little bit, and I want to thank Alex also for giving me a little tutelage last couple of weeks. I had to give him a call to ask him about some of the aspects of the game, and Peach is in the third level, goes to the third level, and when he's killed there, if I understand that correctly. I would love to have seen a little bit more of him, and I thought that possibly, see, I didn't know at that time. I didn't know. I went in and did what I did, collected my money and went on to the next gig, and so I didn't know what the ramifications were of my character at that time. But I could have seen him going on. It's a moot point now, but there is a movie coming out.
Yes.
And I'm thinking maybe Peach could come back as his long lost twin.
I mean, I really hope so. I'm glad that you brought up the movie, because a lot of people are kind of 50-50 on it, because a lot of like video game adaptations that go into movies, they either do really well or they flop. And a lot of people are kind of already writing it off as a flop, and they're not giving it a chance. But I hope that whomever is in charge of directing, whether you go back to like the early movie when Gore Verbinski was going to actually direct it,
right? Yeah.
Or if you have a brand new up and coming director, if they can stay to the source material, I think it'll be just fine. Don't try to like deviate too much away from the game or the game story. Just try to nail what the game represents, and I think the movie should be good.
If they do that, it's going to alienate everybody probably who was a devotee, as I said earlier, of the game. And I don't know why they would do that. It's so successful. And I understand that they've been trying to make this movie for some time now.
Yeah, I believe since, like, if I remember correctly, 2010, I think that's when it was slated,
Yeah.
and it was going to be with Gore Verbinski at the helm, and I
Right.
think Universal as the production company.
Okay.
And a lot of bickering went back and forth about like budgetary issues. The overall rating, I think Gore wanted the R rating to like stay true to what Rapture was
Mm-hmm.
and to show
Right.
Rapture, but they wanted it to be PG-13, and it just seemed like talks just stopped. So
Uh-huh.
nobody
Yeah.
thought the movie would ever happen. Then all of a sudden, boom, it's announced.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope it's good. I'm definitely gonna watch it. I just hope, I pray that it's good and it's not a letdown.
Yeah, well, I do as well, and I'm available if they want to bring Peach back in some kind of form.
I'll make sure I try to talk to Netflix. I'll see if I can, slide them
Yeah.
like 100 under the table or something like that. Like, here,
Well,
I know a guy.
yeah,
Here,
I
just
know a
take
guy.
this. He has a
Yeah.
little bit with the first game. I think you might like
Good.
him.
Good. Yeah, just a little bit. Well, yeah, everything and anything can happen in this business. I always have to believe now. I mean, I've been out here 52 years. My story, if you would like to hear it real quick, I played football my freshman year in high school, but little, I'm a little Italian, round-faced Italian kid, and I'm not a natural athlete. So my sophomore year, I got cut, and um, I'm walking my equipment in, and somebody said, "Hey, Villani, why don't you go down to what happened?" I said, "Well, I just got cut or quit from football. Coach thought I was terrible, and so he said, why don't you go down to the drama department? They're doing a play down there." And I went, "Nah, I don't know." And there was a young lady that I liked at the time, and he said, "Well, she's down there auditioning," and I went, "Maybe I'll go down." See what it's like, and I got the only male part, and the end of that year, for the senior play, got mononucleosis, and they asked me to do it, and I learned the lines in a couple of weeks, did it, got a standing ovation, and the rest was history. The bug bit, as they say, and but I'm a faith-based person as well. I believe there's a plan for everything, whether you believe in God, Buddha, karma, whatever it is, something's going on in this universe more than just what you just stumbling down the road. And so I believe that I'm making movies in Hollywood and not playing in the NFL. So there had to have been a reason for all of that. Now I've grown in, I've played young dads, middle-aged dads, and now I'm playing grandpas, and now I just have to believe that they're writing something that I'm going to be perfect for just around the corner. Because if you don't, and every actor should adhere to this, you have to keep the faith. I mean, keep pushing and know that there's something coming up for you, and that if you hit your mark and say your lines, something will happen. And so that's where I am at my career. I'm still doing voiceover. I have a studio in my home. I drive. I'm in a resort town in Orange County, California, but I drive to my auditions when I need to. It's 2 hours up and $100 now and 2 hours back, but I live a great life, and I'm just going to keep doing it because it's what I'm supposed to be doing.
And plus the longevity that kind of is in your favor too, so it's
Yeah,
always
right,
nice.
exactly. I know a lot of people, and we just see what happens.
Yep. So this next question kind of circles back a little bit towards the beginning. But you know how you were doing the voice a little bit earlier of Peach Wilkins, given some of the lines. How did you end up actually deciding that was it? That was the voice. This is how I'm going to voice this character.
Well, and I thought I had the lines here someplace. Let me just see if I have them. Now, anyway, I don't remember all the lines, but some of the lines uh, that were sent to me for the audition. Once again, by looking at Peach, the character that they drew, he works in the fisheries. He's kind of he's kind of a bon vivant, kind of ne'er do well, doing stuff for Mr. Fontaine, Atlas, and so I read the backstory of who he was, and then I developed that voice. And once again, I auditioned at my agent's office in a booth at William Morris, and and then you just walk away and then you hope that they like what you did. Well, by combining the way he looked and the way the lines were written, I came up with a guy that, I got something for you. Mr. Fontaine wants to talk to you. And that's all I did. I didn't do two or three takes with different voices. Mr. Fontaine wants to talk to you. You bet, I didn't. I just did that one voice. And as I said, I got a call from my agent, said, got to be on the stage tomorrow to do Peach Wilkins. So I made Peach Wilkins my own. I mean, that's who Peach Wilkins is, and I'm very proud of that.
I mean, like for as short as it was, even though I wish it would have been longer. It was a hell of a performance, especially like getting the tone of what the character was going for in the game. I think it
Right.
was like nailed perfectly. Then again, it feels like everybody nailed their parts in that
Yeah,
game respectively. So
they did.
it
They were
was
all
very well
all good.
done.
Thank you. Uh, and I tell you what, Eric, it was because we all made a commitment to play. I'm sure that all the other actors are the same way. They don't waffle or anything. But going in with Mr. Levine, that was the key. I mean, that was the catalyst that made this whole thing gel. Also, not knowing what was happening on the screen, um, because they didn't have a scratch track that we were reading against or anything, he would explain it, and he would explain um, the what the scene was and where you're going and what you have to do here, and now you're going to take this plasmid, and then you're going to become. And so it was all very easily done, and I appreciate that when somebody says, not just give me what you got, but here's what you need to give me for it to work. And that's why it was so easy and so much fun.
And it definitely helps when someone that has your best interests like at heart kind of pushes you and makes you like strive to be like the best performer or like the
Yeah.
best like person you can be. So it's definitely awesome to like hear more about like the behind the scenes stuff, which I absolutely love listening to. So again, thank you.
I wish I could tell you more about that because I was in the studio for only 5 days because of the length of the character, and so I didn't come back. I didn't go have lunch with the guys. I didn't talk to anybody. I was there pretty much by myself. They wild tracked, unless you had a specific scene with somebody. They pretty much wild tracked everybody's. Well, except for um, who else? Well, Robert, of course, and they had to interact. But it was. But as I said, it was an overall great experience, and it was like 2007 was a long time ago for a guy who can't remember what he had for breakfast.
I mean, you're doing good, so don't be so hard on yourself. I think you're doing just a fair job. You're good.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. You're doing mediocre. Yeah, pretty good.
Hey, it's all about positive encouragement here.
Yeah, yeah.
So from the majority of the other voice actors that I've actually talked to, and you've kind of alluded to this as well, the majority often record by themselves unless a certain like specific occasion arises. Like I said, with Oliver Vaquer and Jennifer Hale being able to record together and kind of bounce
Right,
off of each other.
right.
How like frequently does that happen with you and like your career, and also what was your reaction when you saw the finished product of Peach like in the game? Like, did you say holy shit, that's me, or like what
Well,
was the reaction?
after, and I don't mean because I'm just a working class guy. I mean, I've had a number of movies and uh, Criminal Minds, CSI, stuff like that. But so I don't go, holy crap, that's me. I'm not so much as, wow, that actually works. Wow, that sounds good. I like the voice. I like what I did on the voice. So that's the whole thing with me. I never saw the whole finished project. I've seen bits and pieces of the game, and I don't think I ever got a finished product, voice product. But but when I did see what I saw, and especially over the years, even now, someone will send me something, and knowing that I played Peach, and send. I mean, there were short little scenes and little things, little voice things and things like that. So it wasn't like big long dialogues. But I go, that wasn't bad. That was pretty good.
I mean, even like I said earlier, for the short amount of time that he was actually in the game, I think he built up quite a bit of a cult following. Like I know a lot of people that is like without a doubt their favorite character, and he's only in the scene for maybe 30, 45 minutes tops.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
Well,
incredible.
that's thank you very much, Eric. That's very nice of you to say. I've actually had a number of people, mostly from Europe, write me and ask me for autographs, and they found me through my website or my through IMDb, and I'm always happy to send somebody something, a little bit of memorabilia. So it's always nice to have done something that's going to last for a while.
Yeah, and especially with how we were talking about it earlier too. 15 years. It's been
Yeah,
going to be 15 years, I believe August 21st.
yeah,
And this game is still being talked about. It's still being highly regarded. And from every voice actor I've talked to, it seems like they can reflect fondly on the whole process. So it just
right.
shows that the whole project still withstands the test of time. And to me, that's amazing.
Yeah, it does. And they're working on a new game.
Yes, sir. It is in
And
development.
okay, when is that supposed to be out?
Surprisingly, they haven't released much about it. They back in 2019 they announced that they were indeed confirming a new game was in development, and then they kind of just stopped updating. So we're still a little in the dark. We're getting like rumors here and there. We're getting
Hmm.
leaks here and there.
Right, right.
So I'm not sure, but
I would
hopefully,
imagine you
hopefully
have.
soon.
I would imagine you have contacts, like reporters have, their sources and things like that that you get information from.
Uh, yes and no. I might.
Okay, well,
I
if
might.
I hear of anything,
I'll definitely I'll definitely keep that to myself.
yeah,
Don't want to
okay,
get anybody in
exactly.
trouble.
Exactly. I'm sorry. I should know better than that.
It's okay. It's okay. It's just funny. Okay, so now it's more of the not the personal questions yet. That's the next one. So going back to the previous question, like I asked with recording and all of that, how many lines for Peach Wilkins did you actually end up having to do, and how much of that dialogue do you think ended up making the finished cut, and how much do you
Yeah.
think was unused? Because I can imagine there was a ton of lines and like taunts and
Yeah.
just antagonizing that just wasn't
Right.
used.
And I wish I could tell you the exact number because I can't remember, and I don't have my scripts or anything like that. But it seemed like there were a lot more lines that Mr. Levine had us do, and because he could mix and match and do all kinds of things that he wanted. So I think that there were of course a lot more lines than that made the final cut. What I've seen of the final cut in my part, I remember saying some other things and they just didn't make it. And that's what happens with all kinds of movies. I was in the Ninja Turtle movie. I was one of the newscasters, the last one 3 or 4, 5 years ago, and I shot for a day, and I got parking on the lot. And this is important, parking on the lot, a trailer of my own, and which is sometimes more important than money, but not a lot. But I never made the cut. I did an episode of Fresh Off the Boat. Worked at uh, Sony Studios for mm, probably 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. One really rainy evening uh, in Los Angeles, and they were having to stop because they were on a soundproof stage, but it rained so hard the rain coming sideways on the tin was interfering with the audio. But we shot and we did the whole thing and never made the cut. So there's a lot of that goes on, and I would imagine the same thing with Bioshock.
here's a little like interesting tidbit for you about the series. So when I was doing like research for a lot of like the Infinite interviews that I was doing, or just the
Hmm.
Infinite videos that I make,
Right?
there was a section in particular that really fascinated me, and it stated that there was 5 to 6 games worth of material that was cut from the
Wow.
actual finished product, and that just blows my mind.
That
Knowing,
was Infinity only?
yeah, with Infinite, I'm not sure
I
about
mean,
one and
Infinite,
two.
Infinite, yeah,
It's okay.
Infinite.
But yeah,
Yeah.
5 to 6 games. That is quite a lot. I know, obviously, like you said, cut content is pretty much commonplace. Like, you don't like a
Yeah.
line, you can just throw it out, replace it with something else.
Yeah.
But to have that much content to not be used and to basically either sit in a vault somewhere or the vault that's in Ken Levine's head,
Yeah.
but it's incredible the amount of content that just isn't used.
Well,
And
you know, and what most of the time, what happens, Eric, is that they will record it and it's on a storyboard and they see it and they've written the lines and everything. But once it gets to the actual shooting, they find that there's not enough video for all the audio that they've done. So they'll, instead of cutting the video or lengthening the video to water down the game for some reason, they'll just cut the line and fit the lines in that they have. So I'm not surprised, but I mean that much. That's a bunch, you know.
yeah, you can like even go back and watch trailers and stuff like that, leading up to the game, maybe like a year or 2 years prior. And there's
Right,
all of these elements that are in the game. There's like different
right,
weapons, different vigors that were used at the time, or plasmids in Rapture terms,
right.
and they just didn't make the cut. Like you
Hmm.
saw all the content, it was there, it was in that pre-build, and then all of a sudden, poof, gone.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like one of those what if situations, you know what I mean?
right, exactly. Yeah.
So now we can actually get into the more personal questions, and I only have a couple of
Sure.
them, so you can elaborate as much as you'd like. So, when first starting your career, who inspired you to become an actor? And to this day, who still inspires you to like put out those performances or to try to be the best actor that you can be?
You know, my parents were very supportive. They wanted me to go to college, and I had a partial drama scholarship uh, offered for the University of Missouri because of the drama that I did. Um, but my grades weren't really high enough to get it all. But I went to the university. I pledged a big fraternity. This is back in the '60s when fraternities were really big, the social clubs that they have, and and I did a play. I think I did one play, and then I started thinking about um, radio, and I went to work for the local radio station. And as a matter of fact, back then there were guys in Chicago, Dick Biani and you know, Robert W. Morgan, and all these guys that had these wonderful names. And I didn't really think this was a campus radio station. I broadcast coaxial cable to about 300 students, you know, and I worked the night shift, so not even that many. But but I was, and I remember I listened to some tapes years ago, and I was talking just like this, just like they used to talk. High atop the time and temp tower, make the mark of the mark 58 degrees. Welcome, it's Mike Villani. And anyway, I go home for Thanksgiving. Just before I went home, I changed my name to Mike Scott, thinking that would be, you know, a little stronger because Villani, 3 syllables, and Mike Scott, you know, and very, you know, very creative, right? Mike Scott. So I go home to Thanksgiving and I tell my old Italian pop, I say, hey, Dad, you know, I'm on the radio in Missouri in the university. And, but, you know, I changed my name to Mike Scott because I thought Villani was just too long. He pauses and he looks at me and he goes, well, it's like the Godfather's son. I think if you want to continue with me paying your education, you'll change it back to Villani. And I love that. I'll never forget that. And so I said, yeah, yeah, good, good. I'll do that. So I did.
Okay,
I
don't
went
want
back and
trouble. Sorry, Dad.
but they were very instrumental. They didn't say, "Oh, come on, get a real job," type of thing. And I tell you, one of the first times that my parents saw me on a national commercial after I got out here and got a big agent, both of my parents wrote me a nice little note saying, "We always knew you. This is what you wanted to do, and we were behind you 100%, and we're very glad that we didn't deter you from your goals. So they were very instrumental. Actors and acting wise, I was always liked Robert Redford, and I got to work with him in a movie called Up Close and Personal that I co-starred in with Robert Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer, and had a nice little chat with him. And so there's various actors. Jim Carrey was a wonderful guy. I worked with him, as I say, for 2 days, in the Andy Kaufman movie, and and it's just what I do. So you just have to keep pushing. I'm not going to go. I've never sold insurance or had to sell insurance or shoes or wait. I did wait tables for a little while early on, but I was in radio at the time, and I just did that because I needed some friendship and other people to talk to. So, but I'm very glad that I've done this. I knew from the get go. I knew from high school. I knew in college, and my fraternity brothers now, who I'm still very close to, uh, they always say, Mike, you always knew what you wanted to do and you pursued it. So when I graduated in 1970, it took me an extra year to get out of school. I was the evening booth announcer at KOMU TV, Columbia, Missouri, and I did the announcements there, and I did some commercials, and I did news there, and I packed up my car, $300, my parents' blessing, and the car that my dad had given me, and I came to California, came right to California in 1970, and I've been out here ever since.
I definitely want to say I definitely commend your parents for actually giving you that support. I know there's a lot of parents nowadays with as big as gaming and doing
Right.
digital content or just content creation in general, just using those as examples because that's what I'm more familiar with, where they're
Right.
like, yeah, you can't do that, that's not a real thing, you need to go to school, you need to do what I did, you need to go get a real job. And it's like, I
Right.
don't want to do what you did.
Yeah.
It's no offense to you, it's like I'm good at what I do, I want to
Hmm.
pursue it, and I just wish there was more support going towards that. And I'm glad your parents actually led you down that path, which is just completely awesome. So
Thank you. I
you're
am too. I'm very blessed to have wonderful parents. I mentor a lot of people in either voiceover or the entertainment business. I'm a mentor at my my daughter's high school, Newport Harbor High School, and for 25 years. And I always tell the young men that I mentor, and or people who are in the that want to get into the business, always make sure first of all your money is right. Always, whether you have to go work in a restaurant or something, make sure that your family is taken care of, your money is right, and that people know what you want to do and know about what you want to do, so they'll be behind you. So they'll give you that pat on the back, that attaboy when you do something, and or well, we're really sorry, not we're really sorry you need to get out of this business because it's not that kind of a deal. So it is important, and apparently you have that kind of support as well as I see what you got behind you and what you do.
Yeah, I would definitely say my mom is one of my biggest influences, and same thing with my grandparents. They were basically my parents growing up. Growing
Perfect.
up without a father, it was
Hmm.
kind of weird, but that's where my grandpa kind of stepped in. He really took the mantle of being not only my grandfather but a father type figure. So they definitely kept me on a straight and narrow path in order just to be a good person rather than to grow up and be I don't know.
Be but what you're not.
Yeah, something that I would have hated or something that
Yeah.
would have made me hate myself. So parents and grandparents can definitely be a blessing if you get the right ones.
Right. They are, and if you continue with your business, the old saying, and a lot of people know this: if you love what you're doing, you don't never work a day in your life, and I certainly do, and I sure looks like you do as well. So
Yes, sir.
that's wonderful.
Yes, sir.
God bless them.
Yes, thank you. That that means a lot. So with all that you've done so far in your career, is there still any sort of surreal feeling when seeing or hearing yourself in a finished product, or has it become more of a second nature type thing to you at this point?
No, actually, I'm not wow in awe. It's just I'm grateful that remember the first time I saw myself on the big screen. I mean, it was a movie called Surf City High, and it was at the big theater, and there were people in there watching me say lines, and so it just gave me the validation that I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing. There have been some wow moments for me. I'm a seven-time Olympic announcer, Olympic and Paralympic announcer, venue announcer. The ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the games of the 23rd Olympiad here in Beijing, China. Now, please take your seats, or whatever. That's the kind of stuff over the PA. And one of the ones that I did was I was the announcer, the English announcer for figure skating in Vancouver for the Winter Olympics in 2010. And it was interesting because I got to do the medal ceremony, and that was the if you're into skating, Evan Lysacek beat Evgeny Plashenko, the Russian, for the gold medal. And I got to announce that. And it was just a heady thing knowing that NBC was taking the feed of the PA, and I was being heard all over the world. And that was 2010. I'd already been in the business for a long time. But there are moments like that when you really realize not only did you nail it, but it was big. It was a big deal.
Well, yeah, especially with, companies like NBC.
Well, sure, exactly. Matter of fact, I had a friend who was a voiceover artist, Nick Gismondi, and he is an editor at Universal, NBC Universal. And he called me about 2 weeks after, and he goes, Mikey, he goes, look, I'm editing this film, I'm editing this documentary about figure skating in the Olympics. And I've got all this footage, but I can't get this English announcer out of the track. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. You got all of that? So he did, and he sent it to me, and it's one of my, it's under my videos, but it's the audio under my videos. And I'm very proud of that.
Well, yeah, you should be. That's a hell of an accomplishment. Definitely.
And I'll be going, I believe, I'm pretty sure that I'll be going to Tokyo. I'm sorry. I was in Tokyo last year, and that was an interesting thing because there were no spectators. We were announcing to the venue volunteers, and I was quarantined for the whole time I was there. So that's a whole other story. But I'm going to go to Paris to announce Paralympics sitting volleyball. I'm the voice of the International Paralympic Sitting Volleyball Foundation. So that's going to be fun. And somebody said, how much longer are you going to do this? I'm 75 now. I said, as long as I can make it up to that booth, boy, I'm going to just walk on up there and sit down. Anyway, so I have a lot of things coming up.
That's good. That's awesome. I won't ask about them. I want those to be a surprise because I'm definitely going to be following. So
they'll be on my website, but you and I'll be friends forever, Erik.
For sure.
So I'll keep you posted.
And I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. And then the final question that I have, at least, if there's anything you want to ask after or talk about, feel free. But speaking of your acting career as a whole, I would say you've had a rather interesting career. A lot of different varieties of roles, a lot of different, on screen, behind a microphone, all of that. So would you mind sharing some of your more favorite or most memorable experiences and just kind of give some stories that the fans might enjoy?
Sure. One of the first big movies that I did was Up Close and Personal with Robert and Michelle Pfeiffer and Stockard Channing, and there were a bunch of people in it. And that was a very big movie, and to be able to sit next to Michelle Pfeiffer and to Stockard and to do that movie was a pretty heady thing. What happened was I use an ear prompter, and it's a little miracle ear in your ear, an induction loop around your neck, a little tape recorder, Pearl recorder that I put in my back pocket, and I record on that Pearl recorder. I have a pause switch, and I can go 3, 2, 1 and hit the pause switch. And when it's time for me to start speaking, I hit that pause switch again, and it comes out. And there was a scene where Michelle Pfeiffer's caught in the prison in a riot, and John Abnett, the director, said, "Mike, there's 40 seconds worth of scene here, and the paratroopers are going to come in at the very, not the paratroopers, but the stormtroopers are going to come in at the very last. Can you think of something to say?" This movie was written by John Dunn, John Gregory Dunn, and Joan Didion, and Mr. Dunn just recently passed away. And they were sitting there, and John Abnett asked me to write the 40 seconds worth of fill. And so, with my journalism degree, I started. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching live dramatic footage of our Holmesburg prison, and and then I go on to explain that Michelle and Ned Jackson, our cameraman, are in there, and I put it on my ear prompter. He knew about my ear prompter because I'd auditioned for the actual part of the newsman, and so he put it. I put it on my ear prompter, and I did it. It came out 39 and a half seconds, and it rolled out. John, there's a big pause. He goes, "Cut, print, let's move on." One take, and the first AD says, "Well, Mike's all finished. His part's over. That was his last part." He goes, "Hell if it was." He says, "Anytime an actor can give me my lines in one take and save me thousands of dollars, he's gonna come with me." So he wrote me into 5 more weeks of the movie. So that was a really, really nice big deal. Another movie that I was in, as I mentioned earlier, Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman story. I played Merv Griffin. Merv Griffin is, for the younger people in the audience, was a game show host. Not a game show host. He was a talk show host in the early 70s. And I'll preface this by the reason I said game show host, because he wrote game shows. He owns Wheel of Fortune. He owns Jeopardy. He owns a number of game shows. He was a very wealthy man. Well, Andy Kaufman went on the Merv Griffin show in 1972 or 3, I believe. He wanted to wrestle women. It was a gag. It was a bit. It was a thing. So they built a whole Merv set at the Ambassador Hotel, which is now torn down, where Robert Kennedy was shot in the kitchen. The whole set there, and I was going to be Merv Griffin. Well, I called my agent after I booked it. They were going to have. They thought they wanted to have Merv play it himself, but he didn't look like the same person in 1973 as he did when the movie was shot. So they didn't let him do it. So they had a nationwide casting, New York and LA, and they booked me, and I got the part. Well, I called my agent and I said, "I'd like to go see Merv Griffin and talk to him, see how things are around that time." And she called me back and said, "We talked to Milos Forman, directed it, and Danny DeVito produced it, Jersey Films." And he said, "Mr. Griffin is very, very upset that he is not being able to play the role himself, so there's no contact with Merv. As a matter of fact, Danny wants to apologize to you because they cut all your lines to minimize the effect of Merv." And if you go to my website, which I think you'll have up a little later,
Yes,
the
sir.
I have on the sidebar there the scene, and you see me doing a whole bunch of emotion reactions to what Andy Kaufman is doing, what Jim Carrey was doing. So that was a very interesting part there. I mean, and it goes on. There's all kinds of little things that happen, parts that I didn't get, and there's parts that I got. So I've been very blessed to have had a real good run in Hollywood. I've always made a good living at it, and I think it's because not only being an actor, but I'm a voiceover artist, and I do a lot of corporate films, on camera, corporate films, and narration. So that's kind of the bread and butter. So I've always made a real good living at it.
And then, kind of like speaking on that question still, like, what would you say, in your own personal experience, opinion, what is like the defining moment for you? What is like that crown jewel of your career?
I don't think it's come yet.
Hey,
I really don't.
that's always a good outlook to have.
I mean, I really don't think it's come yet. I think that something is going to happen. But I mean, I think the 2010 Winter Olympics, and that moment there, working with Robert Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer and Stockard Channing, and then being uh, written into 5 more weeks of the movie. Um, some of the Olympics that I've been at, Beijing, China, back in 2008, communist country, but I worked with all of what they call the intellects, and those are 24, 26-year-old graduate students that they actually taught to announce in English, but they had me as a foreign expert to come over to help with that. It was indoor volleyball, and I made some wonderful friends, and it's just the great memories that I've had in the past, my life, and then my friendships. The friendships that I have. I'm very close to, as I say, my fraternity brothers. We're going to Palm Springs this weekend to spend time with 3 other couples, and then just the people that I live around and am around, and I love people and I love getting to know people. So that's a kind of a real warm feeling, warm, comforting feeling.
I can definitely imagine, especially just being able to make those friendships, especially throughout this extended career, and keep those friendships as well. That's definitely a strong bond. So,
Yeah, thank you.
no
Thank you.
problem, no problem. So, other than that, is there anything else that you would like to discuss before we end the interview?
I think we covered it all, Eric. You did a wonderful job, some great questions, and I think you and I got to know each other a little bit better, and I appreciate that.
And again, thank you so much for returning the emails, actually agreeing to the interview. And I do apologize about the other day again, but I mean, medical stuff happens. That's
That's
okay.
between just you and I. That's just
Yes.
between you and I.
Yes. So, other than that, is there anything that you would like to plug? I know you said your website and maybe your IMDb page. Is there anything else that you would like for people to check
IMDb
out?
page is up there. I don't even know how stuff gets in there, who did that, but I'm going, wow, somebody must have liked me enough to put that in there. But my website is simply Michael Villani, uh, one word or one, no spaces, dot webs, webs.com, michaelvillani.webs.com. And if you'll put that up, they'll can see the rest of my career. And once again, BT's ready if you need him.
And thank you again so much for doing this.
Thank you so
So,
much, Eric.
with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this interview. If you want to see more, let me know down in the comments, and I'll also be sure to check out everything that I'll be leaving in the description, including his website. I would very much appreciate that. And with that being said, thank you all. Take care, stay safe, and talk to you all in the next video. Goodbye.
Bye.